Welcome everybody to day one of our travel log of our Nebkoda trip of 2023. And this is the recap version for our friends and family. So we headed east out of Colorado along I-70, and today's adventure was pretty much to follow I-40 from the central part of Colorado all the way to Kansas City. But as things turned out, we didn't get quite that far. We stopped in Strasburg and then Lyman to check out the KOAs for future reference and to get a new catalog. I'll tell you what, the Strasburg one was, well, pretty crowded and very little tent sites. The Lyman one was a lot better, and they were actually open for business too, so we might go back to the Lyman one at some point. From there, we got off the interstate and we followed the old route of US 40, which is now decommissioned. The official route just is on I-70, but I wanted to follow the historic route. So in Colorado, it just kind of meanders around a bit, pretty much following the interstate, but not always. We kept looking for trains and nothing happened. We got all the way down to Kit Carson, Colorado, where we stopped for lunch. And we've been to Kit Carson once before, and well, we didn't think too much of the town, and at the beginning we didn't think too much of the town again, because when it is Sunday, so some places were closed, but there was only one restaurant open, and the person we walked into really was service with a snarl. She's just not being really polite and kind of rude, honestly, but the food was really good, and she kind of mellowed out afterwards. But yeah, we didn't leave much of a tip, because that's just not, just because someone's asked a question, it usually means they're trying to get information. You shouldn't be rude to someone in the service industry, as Evelyn and I both know. The other thing, no bathrooms in the restaurant. Oh, you don't have to use the bathroom? Oh, it was a pit toilet about a mile down the road, so that didn't help things. And a very full and not so pleasant one either. But lunch aside and toilet facilities aside, we went to the old railroad depot, which is now a museum, and they've moved it away from the tracks, and they have some displays, and we were kind of taking some pictures and some videos. And Bob, who lives in a house, I didn't even see him come up behind me, and he just literally said, "Hi, I'm Bob. How are you doing? How would you like a nice cold soda?" It was like, yeah, it was just like, I didn't ask. It was just like, wow, that's really nice. And then he told us a bit about the museum and his history. And the funny thing for me as Danusa is that he's a few years older than me, but not many. He literally grew up 10 miles away from where I grew up, all the way on the East Coast. And then he moved to central Colorado, like we did, and lived there for quite a number of years, and now he's living in Kit Carson, who was taking care of his elderly parents, and he now works as a volunteer for the museum. I'll tell you what, he really made a bad experience of a town to a good experience. It was really nice talking to him. We also we did find out that there is actually an RV campground in Kit Carson. We weren't sure, but now we know it's there. That's really good for future trips. From there, we drove down to Sand Creek National Historic Monument. if you follow your old Indian wars, that's now an impolite way to say it, Native Americans, they also impolite is to call it a battle, which they did for quite a number of years. It wasn't a battle, it was a massacre. About 260 Native Americans lost their lives in a brutal assault on a group of Native Americans who were known by a lot of people as just being peaceful and just trying to survive the winter. We then went up to Mount Sunflower, which is kind of a misnomer, but it's the highest point in Kansas. Oh, it's a real tough drive. We did a video, please check it out, but you literally just drive down a farm road and you kind of drive up this small rise, and that's Mount Sunflower. And there's a like a little pavilion, and there's a marker, and some, well, if you were in the season, you'd see sunflowers too. So from there, we came back to 40, and then by this time it was like 5:30, 6 o'clock at night. We drove up to Oakley, and by that time it was getting dark. We had dinner at the local truck stop because that was the only place open. We checked out the campground, and despite all the glowing reviews on Google, it just wasn't as good as we had originally thought. So, and you know, and the wind really kicked up. We're talking 20, 30 miles an hour. That's really hard if you're tent camping. So we did find other accommodations, but we will talk about this and where we stayed on the night video. So that ends our day one experience. This is Danusa and
Evelyn
on the camera. Thanks for watching this kind of monologue. Please rate, comment, and subscribe. We'll see you on the next one.